This is me 6 weeks ago, about to attempt my second ever marathon, feeling confident that I'm going to finish with flying colors. And this is me 5 hours later, having gone through the most brutal experience of my life, coming nowhere near my goal. Now, this is me a few days ago, up at 3:30 a.m, about to attempt a solo marathon because I wasn't happy with the outcome of the last one, questioning my life choices and wondering why I put myself in this position. Hey guys, my name is Kush and I've been trying out this hybrid training thing for a while now because I got really into running but refused to accept that I have to sacrifice strength or muscle. I made this YouTube channel to document my journey and report back what works and what doesn't. So if that sounds like the type of content you would be interested in, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. The marathon is a beast I've been unable to conquer since I first started my running journey. I've run countless 5Ks, 10Ks, and even a few half marathons, feeling quite strong throughout these and consistently improving at them. But the marathon has constantly evaded me. I attempted my first marathon around a year into my running journey with absolutely no idea what I was doing. I was just coming off the high of having completed my first half marathon, feeling confident that I could just use the same training but slightly increase my long run distance every week. But boy was I wrong. What I didn't realize is the full marathon is a whole different ballgame to the half, and my body was just failing to keep up with these longer runs. I was constantly hitting the wall and cramping up, having to bail out or cut my run short almost every weekend. I kept thinking I just need to push harder to get better, but nothing changed. Finally, the day of Three Bridges Marathon came around, and at this point I was kind of just hoping that the adrenaline and excitement of race day would carry me through to the end. But once again, I was gravely mistaken. I cramped up around 28 kilometers in and ended up giving up around kilometer 31. This took a massive hit on my confidence and morale, and I kind of just stopped thinking about running for a while. I didn't really talk to anyone about the race and I just moved on with my life. It also turned out that I injured my knee on this marathon attempt, so I basically just gave up on running at this point. After some time, I saw a physio, did some rehab, and got back to the point where I could run 5 kilometers again without feeling pain. And also, because I had taken such a long break from running, I actually felt motivated to go out again and try and set a new 5K PR. So I started a new training block and worked hard for the next couple of months. I did actual interval runs, incorporated more easy runs and longer runs. And by the end of this training block, I actually managed to set a pretty substantial PR. This sparked my joy for long distance running again, and I decided I was ready to jump back in. Without hesitation, I signed up for another half marathon, and this time I followed a more structured training program with a higher weekly volume. And once race day came around, I was able to set another massive PR. My confidence was slowly coming back. One day, soon after this half marathon, I was just chilling in my room when I received an email from a familiar name, Max Adventure. I opened it up and saw that Three Bridges Marathon was back and tickets were now available. With my newfound confidence from my recent half marathon PR, I decided I was ready to get hurt again. I signed up. I knew so much more than I did 1 year ago, and I implemented all of this knowledge into a new training plan. I strategically increased mileage, used more gels and sodium, incorporated more speed work, completed more long runs, and made sure I was on top of my rest and recovery. A few of my long runs were over 30 kilometers, and by taking enough electrolytes and constantly topping up my carb stores, I honestly felt quite strong on these. This further boosted my confidence and I felt assured that this year was gonna go well. I set a target for 4 hours. I continued to make my way through the training plan, and before I knew it, race day had come around. I felt excited. I couldn't sleep the night before and I was just ready to put my training to the test. Now, I knew it was forecast to be a warmer day with the sun out, but I wasn't too worried about this because I just planned to take additional sodium to account for the sweat that I was losing. Anyway, we made our way down to the venue. All my loved ones were there to support me and I was feeling good. Maybe a little bit too good. I went out stronger than planned at the start, but I had done this pace for 30-kilometer runs in the past, so I felt confident and kept going. After some time, the sun started beating down a little bit too hard, and I maybe should have taken this as a warning sign to maybe slow down or take some extra electrolytes or both. I did neither, and I just kept going. As you can imagine, this is where it all went downhill. I got to 25 kilometers and hit the wall. The heat was really getting to me and my pace started to drop off significantly. I tried really hard to not let it affect me though, and I just kept telling myself to put one foot in front of the other and just keep going. I thought, you know what, I'll just slow down for some time, conserve some energy, and then push hard later in the race. But around 30 kilometers in, like some sick, twisted joke from the universe, both of my quads fully cramped up. The same point in the same race, exactly 1 year later, and I was in the same situation. I started getting flashbacks to last time, remembering the physical pain in my legs and the mental anguish of having to give up. I cramped up so bad that I had to sit down, and it was time for me to make a decision. Do I throw in the towel? The sun was getting higher and higher in the sky, beating down stronger with every passing minute. Every inch of my body was just screaming for me to stop. But thinking back to last year, I knew in that moment that I couldn't give up. I had worked so hard this year and refused to accept defeat, so I soldiered on. I struggled through pain, cramps, mental anguish, just jogging, walking, doing whatever it took to get to the finish line. I had my loved ones waiting at the end and I didn't want to let them down. More importantly, I didn't want to let myself down. 4 hours and 58 minutes after I started, I crossed the finish line. It was a bittersweet moment as I was happy that I finished the race and that I finished my first ever marathon, but ultimately I was disappointed that I fell so short of my goal. This feeling continued to play in my mind, the fact that I knew I had it in me but fell short due to my race day execution, and as a result ended up in the same position that I was in a year ago. It made me feel like I'd gotten nowhere in that time and I felt deeply bothered. But then in the back of my mind, an idea started to emerge. Initially, I had just assumed that I was stuck with this result until the next race, which wouldn't be for almost another year. But I had already built up marathon fitness and I realized that there was nothing stopping me from just trying again on my own. So the next day, I started plotting a redemption plan. The solo marathon. I immediately hopped on ChatGPT and started asking about what options I had. After some back and forth, I came to the conclusion that I could attempt another marathon in 6 weeks. This would give my body enough time to recover and allow me to fully build back up. So I laid out a plan and began executing. The first 2 weeks were a recovery and rebuild phase. I rested for the first week, then built back up close to my pre-marathon volume in week 2. I kept the volume at this level for the next few weeks, bumping up my long run distance and the intensity of my runs. I also pushed harder at the gym, hoping to strengthen my legs in the weeks leading up to my attempt. The plan was going quite well at this point, but as I had time to process things and really think about what I was doing, I started to experience a lot of doubt and uncertainty. Honestly, I didn't even tell my friends or family that I was doing this, because I was so scared of failing for a third time. I just had so many conflicting emotions about whether I should drop this whole thing and allocate my time and energy somewhere else. I kept wondering whether I was even capable of this goal or if I was just fooling myself. Maybe my body just wasn't built for this. Regardless, I stuck to the plan, made adjustments as I needed, and really locked in on nutrition. I started taking gels more frequently and increased my sodium intake as much as I physically could. I wanted my body to have all the fuel and resources that it needed to go the distance. 6 weeks flew by and solo marathon day rolled around. The weather seemed ideal, my legs felt fresh from my 1 week taper, things were looking good, which put on all the more pressure to not fail. I woke up at 3:30 a.m., had my favorite long run meal, had a coffee, and drove down to my planned route. Now, I had chosen a 7-kilometer loop that I was planning on doing 6 times so that I could have my car set up alongside the road with a bottle of electrolytes that I could use to top up my sodium levels after every lap. I had practiced with this strategy in my training and it seemed to work quite well. Anyway, I got to the starting point and set off at 5:30 a.m. before the sun had even risen. I stuck to the plan, having a gel every 5 kilometers and drinking as many electrolytes as I could. It was a beautiful morning and I was just trying to stay present and grateful throughout the whole run. I had faced so many different emotions on the journey leading up to this point, and I decided that today I was just going to enjoy myself. The sun was rising and the route was slowly getting more crowded. I was listening to all the conversations and laughter as I ran past, looking over the water and just soaking it all in. Before I knew it, 42.2 kilometers was over. I had completed a full marathon, feeling strong all the way through for the first time. I looked down at my watch and saw that I'd finished with a time of 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 27 seconds. I hit my goal, and a sense of relief washed over my body. That was the story of my solo marathon attempt. Hopefully it was inspirational or at least entertaining. YouTube thinks you'll like this video. You should consider subscribing, and goodbye.